There's a version of listening to yourself and listening to your body where you're like, "Hmm, my hip is hurting this morning. Therefore, I am going to quote unquote listen to my body and do nothing today." That's one way of listening to your body. But there's another version, which is like actually speaking the language of your body and learning how to interpret the language of your body.
Welcome to How to Trust Yourself, the podcast for anyone who's done with the endless second guessing and ready to tune in to your inner guidance. I'm Anna Holtzman, and I get that feeling of trudging through life like you're wading through mud, trying to figure out which way to go. In my 20s, I spent more time asking what should I do with my life than writing about crushes or bad dates in my journal. I've tried on a lot of answers: architecture, publishing, editing reality TV for a decade, and finally landing on therapy and coaching, helping people like you connect with your purpose. But here's the thing I've learned through all those twists and turns. Trusting yourself is the key to moving forward, even when the path feels messy. So if you're ready to stop doubting yourself and start listening to your gut, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back, dear listener. Today's episode is for you if you are navigating chronic pain, if you are navigating your identity, if you are navigating the vulnerable, powerful process of learning to tell the truth about your experience out loud. If you relate to any of this, this episode is for you. My guest is Sean Hershey, a psychotherapist based in New York City who specializes in chronic pain recovery and the emotional roots of mind-body symptoms. He's also the host of a new and fabulous podcast called Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain, where he shares unfiltered personal stories, insights from his practice, and a powerful invitation to meet yourself more honestly, more bravely, and more fully. In this conversation, Sean shares the experiences that led him to this work, the emotional terrain of launching his own podcast, and how chronic pain is so often rooted in misattunement, not just from others, but from ourselves. We also talk about what it means to find your voice, to speak from your truth, and to show up even when you feel scared or exposed. If you're someone who's on the path of healing, whether from symptoms, self-doubt, or years of silencing yourself, this one is for you. Let's dive in. Hi, Sean. It is such a treat to get to see you. I think this is twice this week, right? Did we have our group this week?
We did.
Yeah, cool. It's so great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure to be somewhere with you.
Oh.
For the listeners who maybe haven't had the pleasure of getting to know you yet, could you share what you do and who you help?
Yeah. So my name is Sean Hershey. I am a therapist, and I have been a therapist for just a little over 10 years now. And I have, over the past 2 years, started integrating mind body work for the healing chronic pain into my practice because it has been so helpful to me personally on my own journey healing my own chronic pain that I was like, I'm a therapist, like I can offer this, so I'm going to. And now the way that I have my practice set up now, that like I'm advertising myself as like I do chronic pain work, I work from a mind body lens. So those are the clients who I am attracting now to the new people to my practice. And it's been great. Like, I mean, it's been really great. I've been trained in a lot of different kinds of therapy, and many have been awesome in different ways. This really takes things deeper, and I'm really happy to be making this into my profession. And I for people listening who wouldn't know this, Anna hosts a mind body practitioner. What would you call it? Like a
Well, I've been calling it a mastermind. It's really like a guided peer support, like peer development group, I would say. Does that feel
Yeah,
accurate to you?
mastermind and guided peer support, all that feels right.
Yeah.
And I've been in that for like a few months now, and it's been really nice to share my experiences with other mind body practitioners and with you, and get like guidance and support from other people. Which, we can talk about that as time goes, but
Yeah.
that's been a really nice like supportive community as I'm just jumping into doing this.
It's so great to hear that, and it's been so, so awesome to have you there. I mean, I had met you before, we'd gotten to know each other a tiny bit, and it's been so nice to have the opportunity to get to know you better. Um, you mentioned already that you got into the work that you do through your own personal life experience. That's true for me too, whether it was, when I was focusing on chronic pain recovery for about 5 years as a therapist and coach, and I'm now helping folks, sensitive creatives, entrepreneurs, that type of people, work through imposter syndrome and fear of visibility and that kind of stuff. All of it incorporates my own personal experiences because that's what I'm interested in. So, for you, in as much or little detail as you'd like to share, like what is that personal experience that led you into doing this work?
Yeah, well, let me just say, like, fear of visibility, like, yeah, that's what we're here to talk about today.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Because, yeah, no, the work that you do is like very relevant. First of all, I can totally see how that so naturally dovetails with and comes out of doing chronic pain work, because it's like just all the same.
I mean, I feel like it's like I talk about it as like, this came out of that because I'm like, I want to make it clear that I've changed my niche and like help people understand what it is I'm helping with. But like you will understand that I see these things as completely intertwined and not really separate.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense to me. It's like it's the same thing. Well,
Same thing,
and
different window dressing.
exactly, exactly. Um, but yeah, no, for me, I mean, yeah, I mean, if people want to know, well, we will talk about that. I started a podcast. If people want to know like my whole story, they can certainly listen to the podcast. I have a whole episode about like my background, my story with chronic pain. But
And just to clarify, so you recently started your own podcast, which is fantastic, and I encourage people to go listen to it. And it's called Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain with Sean Hershey. Yep.
yeah, awesome. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Um, and I mean, honestly, like I think the podcast is good.
It's freaking awesome. Okay, I endorse it with awesomeness. It's so good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like putting something new out into the world, it is obviously scary, and there's a lot of myself in it, and
Yeah.
so I'm really happy that I can look at what I've created so far and be like, I honestly like it. Like that actually feels really good and satisfying. And of course, I'm like, this could be better, that could be better. Should I change this? But the cool thing about a podcast is that like there will be multiple more episodes. So if there's
There
something
will.
new I want to say, I'd say it later.
And is it okay if I interject a little? Because we're like, this is so relevant to what we're going to talk about
Please,
next.
please.
And I'd just love to back it up as a beat. And again, people can go listen to the full details on your podcast, but in a nutshell, um, like, yeah, what led you into learning about
Yeah.
chronic
So I
pain?
mean, I had like really bad IBS through like most of my 20s, and was so lost on theories like I need to be on a extreme elimination diet. I have a gallbladder and liver issue. I must have a parasite. I must have all these food sensitivities and allergies. I was doing so many like things that made sense at the time, but now that I understand the mind body connection, so many like very misguided things that like I was hoping would cure my IBS and like never did. And then I found a brain retraining program called DNRS, which helped me. And then I found this work, which like that I was like, this is it. Like learning about.
When you say this work, by the way, like I know what you're talking about, but how I still haven't found an easy way to like put a name to it. Do you
Yeah.
what do you call it?
I always call it TMS, like tension myositis or tension myoneural syndrome, whatever word you wanna use. But yeah, there is
Right, and
that's a
that's a
Dr.
phrase coined for listeners who don't know by someone named Dr. John Sarno, who many consider to be kind of like the grandfather of this mind body chronic pain recovery work, which I guess that's what I call it, mind body chronic pain recovery.
Yeah, and I know that, like, the the ATNS, which is like a professional organization that, of people who do the kind of work we do, they are now calling it now I forget. What are they? It's
Oh, yeah, there's a new yeah, I forgot. There's just, like, endless there's so many different terms for it,
yeah.
and I actually think that could be, on the one hand, a marketing problem, but on the other hand, a good thing because it takes us away from things getting too dogmatic.
Yeah, no,
So,
I,
I
I
don't know.
agree. I agree. I think that's true. Like neuroplastic pain is something people call it. Mind pain relief psychology, I want to say is one of the
Oh, I haven't
terms
heard
they're
that one.
using. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean anything. I
Yeah.
like when I think about it, I just like refer to TMS because I that makes sense to me. But I know that some people don't like that term for different reasons. But I don't know. To me, it's nice to just like have a term that works. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. It is kind of nice that it's like everybody calls it something different. It's not so rigid because every human experiences issues with emotions in their body. Like every human experiences that. So it's like, yeah, we might as well have a ton of different terms for that because we can all talk about it.
Yeah, it kind of you could shorthand it as being human. Therapy for being human.
Totally, totally. But yeah, so I had like the whole IBS struggle, which is so much better now. Oh my God, like so much better now. I mean, my symptoms are so much better now. And then hip pain was another chronic pain symptom that I had, which that one I still I mean it's much better than it was before, but that one is I'm still at the tail end of like working through that one. So I
Yeah.
am, and that's one thing that is fun about doing the podcast is I'm on the journey myself, and which like who isn't? Because we're all
Yeah, who isn't? Seriously. Whatever that journey is, like,
exactly
who's at the finish line? Where is that
right.
mythical finish line?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So yeah, that's what brought me to the work is my own personal experience. And like I mean, like I'm saying, many people will have different, like who wouldn't have like pains and issues in their body that are the result of emotional stuff. But like there are people like myself who get really like stuck in it. Like not everybody
Right.
has like a full decade of like severe IBS the way that I did. And some people seem to, I mean, I really, I mean, you know how it is. Like some people are like bedbound for a few years. Like, this
Yeah.
can be really severe. So like my heart goes out to like
Yeah.
those of us who really suffer and struggle with this. And that's who I'm trying to speak to in my podcast.
Quick pause here because I want to invite you into something brand new. I just opened the doors to Seen and Safe, my twice monthly visibility coaching membership for sensitive creatives, coaches, healers, and entrepreneurs. This is for you if you're tired of ghosting your goals and hiding your work, and you want consistent, compassionate support to start showing up in a way that feels safe to your nervous system. We'll meet every 2 weeks for group coaching, journaling, and hot seats, and you'll be surrounded by peers who really get it. Since this is the very first round, I'm opening it just to founding members. And when you use the code FOUNDER, all caps, at checkout, you'll lock in the discounted founding rate for as long as you stay in the group. Doors are only open for a short time because I want this first group to really gel before bringing new people in. So if you're curious, now is the time to join. Head to annaholtzman.com/seen and safe to join us. All right, back to today's episode. Yeah, I think, from my own experience, my experience with migraine, it had to get pretty severe and persistent for me to take the effort to like find this mind body work and learn about the nervous system and just like put all of the emotion and attention into it that it requires.
Yeah.
Um so as we mentioned, you recently started your podcast, Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain. I just love your voice, and when I say that, I mean, like, I just love what your voice sounds like, but I also love the way you talk, and it's a lot of it is it's raw, unfiltered, it's deeply personal. You share in a way that is just, like, so I find it so permission giving to be human.
Mm.
Um, and this kind of I'm gonna use the overused word authentic, but I can't seem to find a better word for it. Like, this kind of authentic self-expression, it's something that a lot of people really crave and want, whether they wanna start a podcast or speak publicly or not. It's like we all wanna feel like we can authentically express ourselves, but most of us have a lot of fear around it too. So, what motivated you to start the podcast?
Yeah. Wow. I'm like, where do I even start with that? What motivated me to start the podcast? Well, I guess the first thing that I want to say about this is it's thank you for saying that about like that hearing my voice like feels permission giving and nice to you. Um that's something that actually is a big deal for me. Like as a gay person, like growing up as like a gay closeted child, like I really did not like the sound of my voice for a long time because, it's like, oh my God, my voice sounds so gay. It was like if I would catch myself on like an answering machine or wherever it might be, I'd be like, oh, really? Like, do I really sound like that? Like, oh my God. And it's funny to do I mean, one of the really empowering things about doing the podcast is like I have not felt that way at all, and it shows how much I've like grown over the course of my life, and like when I listen back to the, because I have to listen. I mean, I'm sure know from editing a podcast yourself. Like I have listened back to edit it, and then I will always listen the day it comes out. I will listen back just to like see like how does it sound, and I'm always like, I don't know. It's funny. Like it's weird that I'm sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I could have said that differently, or like, next time I talk about that, I want to put it this other way. But for the most part, I'm like, I think I sound confident. I'm surprised at myself. I'm like, I think I sound very professional, and I'm just like, I didn't like. There were parts of like child parts of me that didn't would never have known that I had it in me to like do something like this. So that's been
Yeah.
really awesome.
That's really, really beautiful. I, in my own unique way, resonate with what you're saying. My experience is different, but what came up in my mind was you know this actually. Like, I recorded an episode a while back that was very personal, felt very vulnerable, was about a negative experience I had with a former client around my being Jewish, and they're like interpreting that in hurtful ways, and it sort of like caused me to examine how in my case, I hadn't really realized this in a way that it sounds like you were more conscious of your own, like, m uh, self-criticism of your voice. Like, I was
Mhm,
like, "Wow, I sort of, like, whisper I'm Jewish." It's sort of an apology, like,
mhm.
talking about it. It felt a bit like a graded exposure exercise, if that
Yeah,
makes
that
sense,
does. That does.
right? It's like that concept that comes from the chronic pain recovery work we we both know. I think, like, what we've been told is, like, not okay or unacceptable about ourselves. Our nervous system sort of develops, like, a danger association with it, or, like, a disgust association with it,
Mhm,
and we can change that
mhm.
through gradually, coming into relationship with that part of ourselves, whether it's our voice, our identity, whatever.
Yeah, totally. No, totally. And so many people have it's cool to hear you say that because, like, yeah, so many people have like some version of that kind of struggle. Like we're so like not alone in that. Like I just happened to be talking about the podcast to one of my friends who's also gay last weekend. And without even me saying anything about this, he was like, "Ooh, like how is that to do a podcast and listen to your voice?" And then he was like, I mean, I nothing about your voice. I mean, your voice is great, but like like gay men all hate their own voices. He's like, myself included. And I was like, yeah. And then, we were talking about this kind of thing and how I was like impressed with myself that it had been like actually really nice and okay. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to hear, like, it's cool to hear like your version of that same kind of story. But okay, anyway, what inspired me to do the podcast? I I mean, so many different things. I I would say probably the most obvious inspiration is that, like, first of all, I really resonate with the work you do now and the stuff you put out now and your podcast that's all about like wanting to be heard, wanting to be seen, but being afraid of being heard and seen. Like that tension is like, yeah, that's definitely something that I resonate with big time. So that's a huge.
Attention is physical.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. So that's been like a huge part of like where this is coming from for me. Um, the most obvious like inspiration is that when I was like first starting to recover, and as I was like getting my mind around like how to recover, I binge listened to Nicole Sax's podcast, which is
Me
truly,
too.
yeah, and her podcast
Me
is
too. For listeners, it's called The Cure for Chronic Pain with Nicole Sachs.
so good. I mean, such a great resource. Prolific. There's like 200 or something episodes. There's so much there, and she is so good at it. And she has so many people on her show. And I was like, wow, I would love to do something like that someday. But of course, I was like, but it's already taken. Like Nicole's already doing it and doing it so well that like what
I'm glad you're
possible.
saying this because so many people stop themselves with that story, like, "Oh, it's already been done."
Yeah, well, definitely. And my fear with like I was like, well, if I did a podcast, it would just be a bad version of The Cure for Chronic Pain with Nicole Sachs. But then, okay, so then I mean, I was thinking like I kind of want to do this. I mean, I really want to do this, but I'm like, I don't know like how to get it started and what the sort of I don't know. I just don't know what like the vibe would be, what my like angle would be. And then Nicole actually, I don't know if you heard this, but she did a podcast episode on hers. But because I mean, if people listening don't know this, she just had a book come out, which was like a huge thing for her to write a book and get the book published by a major publisher, especially about this topic, which is seen as like kind of fringe, especially in the like mainstream medical community, even though it's like obviously this stuff works and emotions in the body are connected and healing the mind heals the body, like, that works, but it is still considered the kind of fringe. So for her to get the book published was a huge deal. And she did one episode of her podcast. I was on a amazing trip to India at the beginning of the year, and I was on a plane flying back home. And so it's a long flight. We're on the plane for like I don't know how many hours, but like over 12, like long, long, long flight. And it's like the middle of the night, and I couldn't sleep because we're sleeping these dumb like you know airplane chairs. And I put on that podcast, which the new one had just come out, and it was like the book was just about to launch, and it was Nicole and her partner Lisa. And Nicole, do you know what I'm talking about? Nicole had
It's so funny. I haven't listened to it in a long time since, like, my own recovery, but I did listen to this episode that you're
it
referencing.
was so
Yes.
good. I mean, it was literally just like Nicole like crying and like falling apart on the podcast.
Yeah.
And there's something about the way I mean, she's great. She presents herself really professionally. She has a way of like, I think, making it look like doing this mind body work is so great because you will end up in such a good place, just like me. And she really does a great job at like putting her best foot forward and always looking successful, which I'm impressed by. And there was something really nice about just seeing her like totally have a meltdown, like someone who I really respect, um,
Yeah.
and who I really think is a success, just like kind of fall apart in a public forum and be crying and be like, I can't do this anymore. Um,
It was amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
really moving.
yeah. And to me, I was like, there we go. Like, there we go. Like, I can do this. And it's not going to be the same as what she does. Like it's going to be different because it's going to be me, and I want to do it like this way. And granted, like I haven't done one that's kind of been like that raw, but that's my theme is like be like real and true to myself. And I don't want to get
Yeah.
actually, I really don't want to get lost in my work with the stuff that I'm putting out in my podcast publicly. I don't want to get lost in like, I want everybody to be able to relate to this. I want everybody to be able to like get this. I want to like create like a huge tent. I'm like, I want to be me. And for the
Yeah.
people who like get that and understand that and resonate with that, awesome. But I'm not trying to be like, I want everybody in the world to hear this message because I'm like, that's not realistic. And so I'm like, I just want to speak to people who like I get them and they get me. So that's the theme.
And for me, that's what makes your voice on the podcast magnetic because it isn't generic and diluted and trying to please everyone. It's very specific and that makes it very relatable. Like I feel connected to the realness of it.
Cool. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's get into the real like juiciness of
Yeah.
this from a mind body perspective. What has the experience been like of putting your voice out there in this way? Like what's been challenging about it? How are you moving through it? Are there aspects of it that have been rewarding? What's it been like on a physical level, a mental level, an emotional level?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's such a good question. My hip has both liked it and not liked it.
That totally makes sense.
Like before I'll record one, I'll like have pain, and then sometimes it'll be fun. Like there was one where I was like my hip was really hurting. I forget which one now, but then I recorded the podcast episode, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna edit this later. I'm gonna go to the gym now, and I will come back to edit the podcast like tonight. And as I was walking to the gym, my hip had really been hurting in the morning before doing the podcast. As I was walking, I just sort of like tuned into my hip and I was like, it feels completely fine. Like completely fine.
Wow.
So it's funny how
Wow.
real that is. But from a
Yeah.
more like psychological perspective, like, okay, so something that like got from so I had a TMS therapist myself last year. Her name was Liz Wallenstein. She was such a good therapist. If anybody is in the market, I mean, I will also say I think now I do a very good job as a therapist. So I'll
Yes.
put that out there. But also, like Liz Wallenstein was a really excellent therapist, and the main thing that I got from working with her was like really tuning into me and tuning into myself on like a much deeper level than I ever had before. And that was so important for my recovery. And I had always like I grew up in a family where like I was like I was taught kind of like that one can control who they are and you can kind of like cultivate and shape your personality and shape who you are, and that's like how life works. And what that's obviously not, I mean, yes, you have, we all have some control over who we are and we all make choices, like obviously that's not completely not true, but there's so much of who I am, just like as a human being generally, and as me specifically. There's so much of that that just is what it is, and I don't have control over it. So where I used to think like it was my responsibility to like appropriately shape myself into the right version of myself,
Yeah.
with that mentality, there's also the shame of like anything that's quote unquote wrong or not good enough. Like all of that, if you see the world as like I have full control over me, if you see the world through that lens, which I grew up seeing the world that way, then every quote unquote failure or every quote unquote shortcoming is like your own personal failure. Like as if I was like not able to shape myself or grow in the ways I needed to grow or be good enough. And I mean, I still do that in many ways, but I've gotten much better at like toning that down and not putting the pressure on myself to be like different than I actually am. And instead just being like, I am who I am, and there's no changing that, and almost like I don't have control over it. Like, and that's one of the things that really has helped me a lot with the podcast. And I wonder if like any of your listeners will resonate with this. Like for me, when I like let go and I'm just like, I just want to be myself. There's certainly a part of me that's like, so I'm just gonna like lie in bed all day and do nothing because that's me. Like I just want to relax. There is that part of me which is like, okay, great, that's there. But then like also like if if I just let go and say like I want to just be myself, action does emerge from that. Like I am someone who like without trying, like without forcing it, I want to do stuff. And one of the things I want to do is this. I was like, I want to like
Yeah.
put my voice out there. I want to like teach about this stuff because it is really important to me. I want to like, be able to like offer myself and my perspective and like parts of my personality. I want to offer like what I can offer to people in a format that I can, like through the podcast. Just and people can access it completely for free. Like I want to like offer that to people just because like that honestly feels good to me and I actually want to do it. So it's like that's been a huge mind body connection for me in doing this is that like as I let go and I'm just like I'm just going to be me, the action of like I want to do this has emerged, and that's been big, and and truly it feels like it's kind of out of my control, like sometimes, which is a good thing, like sometimes I will like write notes, the bullet points for like a whole podcast episode, and then I'll kind of like wake up after I did that and I'm like, this is crazy, like the podcast episode I'm about to record is really feels like it's really out there. But I'm like, it's too late. Like I just wrote it out and like it's just happening. It's kind of like it's outside of my own control. It's just happening. So that's been a huge mind body connection.
I just love hearing you describe something that I relate to deeply, which is like this dance, or sometimes it can feel like a battle between the part of us that's like, I don't know. Have you ever seen the movie The Holy Monty Python's The Holy Grail?
Of course, but like many years ago. So I remember
Well,
like the bunny and stuff.
there's this scene where this like prince is like, I I I want to sing, and he bursts out into song. Like, I think that's inside of all of us in some way, right? I know it's inside of me.
Yeah.
And then there's the other part that's like, "What the F are you doing? Like, stop. Just be quiet, get under the covers and lie in bed all day
Yes.
for protection,
Yes.
and comfort." And, and you also mentioned that, your symptoms will flare up as you're preparing to record a podcast sometimes, which is like, I relate to that too. Like, I'll experience body tension in the lead up to and then the aftermath of, like, anything where I'm stepping into visibility in a bigger way than I'm used to.
Yeah.
Um, it could be body tension, it could be a flare up of, negative self-talk or anxiety, it
Yeah.
could be all the above. And something I would love to hear your perspective on, because I hear this a lot from clients that I coach,
Mm.
where they will experience some version of that. They want to sing, put themselves out there in some way.
Right.
And then they experience some kind of flare up of tension, pain, anxiety, negative self talk. And they'll say to me, well, I, I, I put myself out there, but then this happened and I didn't feel good.
Mhm.
So maybe I'm doing it wrong, or maybe I'm not being kind enough to myself, or maybe I should not be doing this at all. Maybe this is a sign that I shouldn't be doing this.
Mhm.
What's your perspective on that?
That's such a hard one. I mean, I think that's like doing mind body work generally, like, okay, they're thinking about like listening to yourself or like listening to your body, because there's a version of listening to yourself and listening to your body where you're like, hmm, my hip is hurting this morning. Therefore, I am going to quote unquote listen to my body and do nothing today. That's one way of listening to your body. Um, and then there's that to me is like listening to your body before you like really speak the language of your body. And I've been in that place many times, like my stomach hurts if I eat this or that, so therefore I won't eat it. And my stomach didn't really hurt because I ate this or that, but I thought it did, you know what I mean? So um or one was like, my stomach hurts if I lay down and then get up. There was like a whole 2 years of my life where I was like, I have to remain in an upright position because like I couldn't just like lay down on the couch or lay down on the bed in the middle of the day because my belief, and it was true because it was my belief, like if I got up, then it would trigger my IBS and then my stomach would just like really hurt and feel really messed up. So I was like, I can't even like lay down in the middle of the day because I have to like stay upright. So that's one version of listening to your body, which similarly, like in this example, would be like, I'm not feeling, I did it. I put myself out there and I'm not feeling good. Therefore, I'm going to stop. Like that's one version of listening to your body. But there's another version, which is like actually speaking the language of your body and learning how to interpret the language of your body, which is like that's the stuff like that you do. And I know that's the stuff that we I can talk about this in a minute. That's the stuff that you um talk about with us in the mastermind that you lead. Like there's a way to listen to that and know like, okay, I'm scared. And like, of course I'm scared. Or like, okay, I'm anxious. Of course I'm anxious. Okay, I'm putting myself out there and that activates like all this stuff for me. Like, what if people don't receive me? What if people hate me? What if this is like, the way my mother saw me or the way my whoever, there's so many things that can be triggered just because it doesn't feel good does not mean it's wrong. Because sometimes things that are right for you, it hurts to like get through and do it. That was actually one thing that Liz Wallenstein said to me. And now I forget exactly, but I was like, yeah, yo, like you are right. So she was like, anything. I wish I had the quote, but it was something like anything in life that really matters is going to like it's going to be a struggle or it's going to be difficult or something. And I think that's true. I think that's totally true.
I love having these kind of conversations so much. It's like my favorite thing because um we're such like we're all so unique and different, but we're also such mirrors for each other. And there's, everything you express. I'm like, well, my experience might be different, but it reminds me of this similar, you know,
Yeah.
a thread of something similar. And as I was listening to you, my understanding of what we're talking about just got even just a little bit sharper. And I was thinking about the concept from the TMS or mind body therapy called conditioned response,
Hmm.
right? There's like, so I'll just give an example for listeners. Like back when I was getting these severe migraine attacks, um, I learned that I had all these conditioned responses. Like I thought that being in direct sunlight triggered my migraines because I thought that, there was like a direct cause and effect. But what I learned through this work is that my nervous system developed a conditioned response
Yeah.
to direct sunlight. Like my nervous system basically internalized a belief that direct sunlight was dangerous. And so there was this conditioned response effect.
Mhm.
And I think most people have a learned, conditioned response to speaking freely, to expressing ourselves freely.
That's a
Like
good point.
that has gotten coded as dangerous, probably because we were told a million times in a million ways by a million people as kids that it wasn't okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's so true. And that's so true. And right, I mean, that was what I'm talking about. Like, I couldn't even lay down and sit up. That's a conditioned response too, like definitely.
Yeah.
And as yeah, something that I want to say is because this just happened like this week. This happened in our mastermind, so I want to just like share this with people. Um, the way that the group goes is like everybody will go around and like say a little, just say a little like intro about like, we'll like just do like a little sort of go around question to check in, and then we get into like the meat of stuff, which is like what question do you have for the group? What are you struggling with? And people will beforehand like type into a spreadsheet, that they want a little time for whatever the issue they might be dealing with. And so this week nobody had written anything in the spreadsheet, and you were like, okay, well, the floor is open, like we've got like a lot of time, like whoever wants to talk, like go ahead. And like there was just like a long silence, and I am totally one like to like I've always been that person in school. Like if there's a long silence, I'm the one who's like, okay, well, I wouldn't talk normally, but like if it's going to be awkward, I'll come in and say something. So like there's a long silence, and I was like, well, okay, if nobody else is going to say anything, fine, I will talk about like, because I had just that morning. Um, I mean, the long story short, I had a client reach out to me last week who was like, or a potential client reached out to me last week who was like, let's schedule a consult to discuss working together. And I was like, okay, great, let's do that. Like, I've got a couple open slots, awesome. And I'm like, I was like, good, that's great. And then I published a podcast this weekend, so this was on Sunday. That was pretty vulnerable. Like I shared like a lot of stuff, which is typical. Like that's. I mean, I don't know. The podcasts aren't like wildly personal, but it's like in a professional way. They're personal.
Some of them are deeply personal, I would
Yeah,
say,
thank you. I mean,
in a really helpful way.
cool. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I like to think I do a good job of like keeping it professional and also like going there. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank
I agree.
um but yeah, so I just put out a podcast that like felt kind of vulnerable, and literally I don't think the two had anything to do with each other. I don't even think this potential client probably even listened to that podcast, but the next day I got an email from this client saying, oh, never mind, I'm going to cancel my consult. We never even met, but she was like, I'm going to cancel my consultation because I decided to go with a different provider. Like, bye.
Yeah.
And I was like, none of this probably is personal at all. But I was like, what I shared in your group was like, I can't help but feel like really bad. Like here I am putting out this like vulnerable stuff into the world. And when you publish a podcast, like you don't get that much like immediate feedback. Some, honestly, there's one about sex that I got a lot of immediate feedback about,
Including from me.
including from
I loved it.
yeah, there was one where like I got a lot of like messages and DMs and emails being like, "Oh my god, that was amazing! Thank you for sharing that." So that was cool. That one was pretty like out there. But the one I did most recently wasn't like that. And so you put this stuff out into the world, and it's like you don't really get much immediate feedback. It's just kind of like, well, there it is. And just to be like the only feedback I got, which wasn't even about the podcast, was somebody being like, I don't want to work with you. I was just like, oh my.
Which it wasn't the feedback that actually wasn't feedback, but there was a conditioned association there.
Exactly. Like, it's not even feedback. Exactly. So I brought this up in the group and was just like, like I just feel bad. And I was just so honestly like surprised and grateful by how held I was in the group. Like basically everybody was like, I have been there in some way. Like I like putting yourself out there is hard. Putting yourself out there and then having people like not care or not make a big deal out of it. And you were the one actually who, I believe it was you who brought up the still face mother.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Yes.
like explain, because I really resonated with that. And
Yeah, so, it was a funny moment where, like you said, there was a pause, like, no one it seemed like no one had anything to say, and I was sort of like, "Oh, please, somebody say something." And when you shared this story, I was like, "What a gigantic relief to have permission to talk about this," because this is an experience I certainly have regularly, where you put yourself out there in a way that feels raw or risky or vulnerable, and then either like there's no response, there's crickets, nothing comes back, or something random happens that feels like a rejection, and you
right.
like connect the two. Um, and so, yeah, I talked about I'm gonna forget the exact name of this, but
Was it the
there is
Snowflake's
a
mother?
yes,
Yeah,
very well known in the field of psychology, this very well known, experiment, I guess, I don't know what
yeah, I would
yeah,
say so.
uh, that was filmed and is shown in, like, I'm guessing probably most
You saw it
graduate
in my social
programs.
I can remember the classroom that we
Yeah.
saw it in. It makes an
Yes,
impact. Watching the video makes an impact.
and so what this experiment was is they brought a mother and her baby into, in, like, an observation room, and the mother was instructed to first hold the baby up so they're face to face and, like, coo at it and, giggle and smile and do the things we do when we're face to face with a baby. And then all of the sudden, the mother is instructed to just make her face completely blank and unresponsive. And so they're still face to face, and the baby is still, being expressive, but is getting nothing back.
Yeah,
And the baby just freaking loses it, like, is wailing, screaming, is so upset, so agitated, and it's really hard to
it
watch
is.
this video. I mean, it does look like child abuse.
Yeah,
Um, and I was saying, like, we're not babies, but we still have the same nervous system, and it can feel very, unsettling
yeah.
to put yourself out there and not receive anything back, and that's, like, a regular part of life when especially when you run a business and you're marketing it.
Right, 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 and that's I mean, it's just so nice to be reminded that I'm not alone with that. And that's something that I really love about the work that you do and the podcast that you put out is like, for people in a position like me who are like, I have my own business. I and I mean, like, no matter what you're doing, it is vulnerable. Even if you're just like typing up your like for a therapist to be like typing up your Psychology Today profile and saying like this is who I am and these are the kind of clients who I think I'm a good fit for and this is what I think I can help you with, even that is vulnerable. And there's and then yeah, maybe you put up that profile and nobody responds. Like that's possible. And hopefully it leads you to the right people, that sort of thing. Like that would be the ideal. But maybe at first it doesn't. And just to I'm really happy to be like in your orbit and be exposed to this stuff. And I hope that people listening similarly might kind of feel like, yeah, like I can put myself out there. And even if the whole world isn't like, oh my God, A plus, 100%, like, okay, you are being true to you. So, or at least you're doing, for me, it's like I'm doing my best to be true to me. So, like, okay, like, what better can I do? That's literally the best I can do. And yeah, that's it.
The crazy thing is it's like when we put ourselves out there and we don't get anything back immediately or in the way we thought we should, we it's normal to have these, like, freak out feelings and, like, feeling just alone and unloved and all those things, and then it can be very embarrassing to talk about that out loud because those we feel ashamed of those feelings a lot of the time, and it's taken me years to learn that actually sharing those vulnerable feelings with someone else is the best way to soothe those feelings because other people do relate, and then you come back into that feeling of connection and resonance, and you are getting something back, and there's, like, a back and forth exchange of energy, and, like, that's what helps me get unstuck so that I can keep going, but it's taken me a long time to find that out.
Yeah, yeah, no, and say, I mean, yeah, I'm like still on that journey. And I mean, it's funny, like now, like, I mean, the graded exposure thing is so relevant. Like now that I'm doing the podcast, that's starting to feel kind of safe to me. And but there are other things, like public speaking in person would still be really scary. Like I still have a ways to go in my own journey. So yeah.
Oh, me too, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, oh, Sean, I love conversations with you.
Mm.
I love the openness that you bring to conversation. We are winding down this particular conversation, and So I'm going to ask my wrap up 3 questions that I always ask every guest.
Mm.
The first of which is, if there is a soapbox message that you feel passionate about infusing into the work that you do and your podcast, um, what would that message be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me say this because this is one thing that I did want to say that was very relevant to me being a participant
Yes.
in your group. And I guess, yeah, it kind of is a soapbox. If you want to think of it that way, it could be a soapbox message. My greatest fear in starting this so I'm now on episode 11, so it's been 11 weeks since I started it. So it's still like pretty new, but it's not brand new anymore. Um when I was first starting this, my biggest fear was not like it's gonna suck or no one's gonna. I mean, I was kind of like, oh, no one's gonna listen. That was a kind of fear. I wasn't. I knew it was gonna be at least okay. Like I wasn't worried like it's gonna be awful. Like I knew it was gonna be at least like a passable podcast. But my biggest fear, biggest fear, which I discussed in the group, was like
Yeah.
my parents will hear this podcast. And like I'm talking about like my childhood and chronic pain and like my family of origin is part of that story. And I was like, I know that if they listened to this, they would really not like it because they would not agree with like and not be happy with like my narrative, which is like every family is complex and there is good and bad, but like my parents don't want to hear that. They're protected against that. So getting past that hurdle was the biggest thing for me in doing this. So I guess my soapbox and being part of the group really helped me with that because that's something that I talked about early on. Like, I like wrote my name down on the spreadsheet for that one. I was like, I've got an
Yeah.
issue that we've got to work through. And people were so helpful. Like it was really nice to just like speak to other professionals who also do this kind of work, like other mental health professionals and coaching professionals who were like me too. Like my family, I love them and I struggle with them. Like they get me and they really don't. And like to hear people's different ideas for like how to handle it really helped me. And I ended up actually saying to both of my parents, I mean, first of all, they wouldn't really find the podcast anyway, but just in case they did, I ended up saying to both of them, like, I had a conversation with both of them, like, please, I'm putting out a podcast. Don't listen to it. And the way I put it was like, there's going to be a lot of stuff in there, like stuff about like sex and stuff. And I want you to respect my privacy and not listen to it. And I knew that I know them, so I knew that that would get them to be like, okay, like we won't listen to it. And they agreed not to listen to it. But I guess my soapbox message is like know what the barrier like know what your biggest barrier is, and then like if you really want to move forward, like I really wanted to do this, but I was like, I can't do it because of my family. But like that's not necessarily true. Like try to figure out like is there a workaround? Like search for other people who have done similar stuff or who have maybe had similar issues because you're not the only person who has the barrier that you have. So like try to understand what the biggest barrier is and then don't stop there. Like if it like start to question like how can I work around this? Because if I hadn't worked around that barrier, I would not have a podcast. Absolutely not. I would still be in fear and I wouldn't have done it. So yeah, that's my soapbox message.
Thank you. I find that message really, really inspiring. And I think it's one that's really worth being reminded of at many, many, many times in life because there's always going to be that next thing we want to step into and then the fear that comes up around that,
Right.
and we'll always be negotiating that, or not negotiating it and not stepping into the things we want to step into. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll go back and listen to your message again for encouragement. um and speaking of encouragement, like for the listener who's hearing this conversation between you and I, they're hearing about your path. They're feeling inspired, perhaps, by your chronic pain recovery journey, and they're wanting to move forward in their own. perhaps by your steps into, like, speaking freely, sharing your story publicly, all that. If they are early on in a journey of getting to know themselves better, but they're overwhelmed about where to start and it just seems, like, big and confusing and terrifying, what words of encouragement would you offer them?
Hmm, that's a great question. Um, I guess I would say just, like, keep going. And no I mean, these are words of encouragement to, like, that person, but also, like, words of encouragement that I need for myself still. Like, one thing that I have really been doing lately is, like go slow. You know, don't put the pressure on yourself to go so fast. Like, go slow. Like, I look back on my mid-20s. I was a social worker and therapist at, like, a very difficult clinic to work at, very high demand, lots of patients in and out who were like it was a hard place to work. Lots of paperwork. Like, it was just, like, rough. And I was so thirsty to kind of, like, establish my career and, like, do something good and, like, do something good for the world and, like, help people and, like, all like help people and establish myself, like, be a professional. Um and I'm like, some people in their 20s are, like, on a beach, or some people in their like, some people, like, let themselves be young or let themselves, like, chill in a way that, like, I didn't let myself do
Yeah.
that. And, like, granted, like, some people aren't able to do that, but, like, I grew up with and have the privilege that I could have very easily made choices that would have made my life way easier on me. And I didn't do that. And I think the same thing applies to me now. Like, I'm like, I want to have, like, a great private practice that's really, like, established. And I want to, like, have my podcast really established and have all these, like, I just want to have, like, this flow that's, like, really, like, good. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, maybe you'll have that when you're in your mid 40s or your mid 50s. You don't have that yet. Like, but like, don't worry. Like, don't try so hard. Like, let yourself be chill now and just keep on the path. Keep walking. One thing that Nicole Sachs always says, which I love, is left foot, right foot, breathe. Like, just keep walking. Take the next step. Just keep walking. That's advice for anyone who's new to this kind of thing, and for myself as well.
I think this is one of the reasons why, I feel a connection with you is that, like, I'm that person in my own way too. Whatever it is that I've accomplished, it's always, like, not enough, and then I'm having to, like, remind myself to be kind to myself. My most frequently used mantra for, like, coming back to myself, coming off the ledge is, "Let yourself off the hook."
Mm,
Like, that is just
yeah.
I think it's something that can shift and we can work on, and I think there's something about that in my wiring where it's always like, "Oh, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
I gotta,
Totally.
like, do and achieve," and,
Totally.
like, "Oh, no, I'm stressing myself out."
Totally. And I will just say, this is coming from someone I know. Either you did an Instagram reel about this, or maybe it was one of the podcasts you did, where you, whatever it was that you published, that you were interviewed on the Brian Lehrer show for, which I'm always listening to Brian Lehrer. I was like, oh my God, Anna was on the Brian Lehrer show. That to me is like, you're the ultimate success. So I'm like, this is coming from you.
So funny.
Okay.
Yeah, on his show for something that I then, like, promptly stopped pursuing after that.
Right.
So funny. Finally, where can people find you? Where can they find you online? How can they work with you? Who can work with you? Please tell
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so first, the easiest place to find me is, of course, the new podcast, which is Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain. Search it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and it's on a bunch of other things too, some of which I'm not even really aware of. It is out there. So that is there, completely free, and yeah, you're welcome to listen. Um, If somebody wants to work with me, like say, you want a therapist, like, yeah, great. I've got a few open slots. Let's talk. I My website is mindbodymedicineforchronicpain.com or seanhershey.com. They both will take you to the same place. And yeah, I've got a contact section. So reach out to me. I mean, the way that would work is like we would set up a brief consultation to discuss working together, and then we would get started if you wanted to. So yeah, people can find me in both those ways. Oh, also I'm on Instagram at
Reach out to Sean.
yeah. I'm on Instagram at my gay therapist. I'm not super into Instagram, but I've got the Instagram. So if you wanna follow me over there, yes.
And you have some great videos on there. I really like the videos
Thank
you've
you.
put out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me, Anna.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
No,
Really enjoy getting to have this conversation with you, and
same,
I'll see you soon.
same.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor. Hit that follow button so you don't miss a thing, and leave a rating or review. It helps more people find this show, and honestly, it makes my day. And if you're looking for more ways to trust yourself and start listening to that gut instinct of yours, come hang out with me on Instagram at Anna_Holtzman. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, trust yourself. You've got this.